Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our final council meeting of the year. If I could please ask you all to stand for our opening karakia. Te taua mai i runga, tu taua mai i raro, tu taua mai i roto, tu taua mai i waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora ki te katoa, haumie hui e tai ki. As per usual, we are being live streamed and recorded, and I'd just like to call for apologies, which we have from Councillor Bogue. Can I have a mover in? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan, Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Are there any conflicts of interest? We do have a guest speaker in our public forum today, so welcome to Bradley Graham, and I'd invite you to come to the front of the room, who is here to talk to us about skid pads for recreational drivers. So welcome, Bradley.
Good morning. My name's Bradley Graham. Just quickly start off, I was a little bit unorganised this morning and I was meant to have a video with this. So you'll just have to do your best at imagining the video because we don't have it with us today. So yeah, my name's Bradley Graham, I'm 22 and I've lived in Hawke's Bay all my life. Just recently buying my first home in Flaxmere. I work full-time as a health and safety consultant, and on the side I also run Coon Cartel, which is a Hawke's Bay Ford Falcon club, but widely spread throughout the whole of North Island. There's 2,500 members, with around 1,500 to 2,000 of them being from Hawke's Bay. These stats were 6 months ago when I presented to Hastings. Boy races in Hawke's Bay is a growing group. My group has attracted thousands of people in less than 1 year, and I know of many other car crews located in Hawke's Bay, with many members, and are still gaining many members. The reason for this is drifting is the world's fastest growing motorsport in the world. Local people of all ages are interested in the sport, and not only drifting and doing burnouts in their cars, but they're doing it on the public roads. This is because the prices to travel to the closest track are too high. You have registration fees, accommodation, food and travel expenses. The cost of all this is too much for the younger generation of boy racers like myself, especially after just buying my first home. I'd never be able to afford it. Like other motorsports such as Formula 1 and supercar racing, to do a burnout or a drift, it takes a lot of skill and control. Here's a little video showing these skills. That video shows you the skill it takes to drift, but also it shows you what people are watching online on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and all these other social media platforms. People are showing a huge interest in wanting to attempt these stunts themselves. Only the problem is it's on local roads and not in a controlled environment. The problem of local boy races on the streets is not getting any better. The current policing models are not solving any issues. The convictions that go with sustained loss of traction of a very minor nature are making criminals of a large group of the Hawke's Bay youth. It has limited their ability to travel overseas or get jobs, and it is pretty offensive to hear how people talk about boy races essentially when we're just a group of people who love cars like myself. I've sat around a table with Anna Lork and Greg Murphy to share our interest of building a burnout pad to help change the culture of boy races in Hawke's Bay, rather than to criminalise a very large part of the Hawke's Bay youth. Inspector Matt Broderick, Road Policing and Fleet Manager, is also behind the idea. My vision for this is to change the boy racer culture, have an area where we can go legally spin the tyres, have fees in place for locals so they can go to the pad more regularly on certain dates, organising and holding a few events a year for locals, out-of-towners, where there are championships, car awards, prizes and giveaways, all to do with people's cars, such as cleanest car, best burnout, best paint job, things along those lines to make people want to bring their cars out and win awards. My vision isn't to be like the Taupo racetrack, but more of a grassroots type of an approach for the everyday person to take part. I understand it will not fix the problem of burnouts on the local streets completely, but I believe if the grassroots approach is taken to make it more affordable, it will be a great outcome with many people using the facility and also making the ones that don't use it easier to police. I'm not looking for council to build this for us or a handout of money. I'm asking for council and police support to help us to get land. I believe that if the permission is there with the council and the police and the right steps are taken, then people are more likely to lease the land to us or be up for the idea. Thank you, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Bradley. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Taylor and Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Bradley, so you're looking to lease land, not purchase?
Yes, so the Hastings Council kind of backed us on this, and they gave me a sheet of paper saying that, with police and council permission, saying that basically I do have permission to be going around trying to ask for land, but it just wasn't enough. Just because it's like only my face, I feel like they just kind of turn it away. And I've been to Andy Eyre because we were trying to lease some land down the Meremere Road off the Meremere motocross track because they got sound approval and stuff like that. But he wasn't too keen because to jump through the hoops, he also spent $300,000 of his own money down there, so he just doesn't want to risk it. So we're just kind of at a dead end because I've been trying for the last about 12 months to sort land, and it's just a dead end every time because of the boy racer name that's basically been made. Yeah, and I just find it hard because they haven't heard the backside of what I'm trying to create. I think they'll just picture a whole lot of young hooligans kind of on their land. But yeah, I really want to change the whole culture to make it more family friendly in a way, events and stuff.
How much land would you require?
20 metre by 20 metre, and then obviously a little bit of land just to park cars and things like that. But 20 metre by 20 metre pad, yep. And we've had a lot of concrete companies that are willing to help and stuff like that. There's a lot of like behind the scenes. It's just pretty much a matter of trying to secure land. Yeah.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Bradley, for your presentation, and I think it was good for you to kind of acknowledge a lot of the negative connotations that go along with that term boy racer, of course, because that can be frustrating for a lot of our residents, and I know as elected members we hear about that a lot. And it's a really good vision that you have. I suppose my question probably was half answered by Councillor Taylor's question, but it was around, so how much land you need. So it's just the one pad that you need space for. And have you approached any other like-minded organisations? For instance, I'm not in this world, but there's the Speedway in Meani.
Yes, so we've talked to the Speedway, and it's never going to happen there again. It wasn't shut down from council, it was shut down from New Zealand Speedway, and that was because of organic orchards that are nearby, and obviously the smoke and stuff like that with organic orchards is just a no-brainer. And riding for the disabled is their neighbouring party. So yeah, Meani's just out of the option, too many close residents and stuff.
And I suppose the second part of my my question is, what exactly do you need from council? So you mentioned a letter of permission. Obviously you don't actually have permission to approach.
Yeah, we pretty much did get permission from the Hastings Council, but I just need another approach, to get it out in the community, not where it's just my face. Maybe I'm standing next to a councillor and maybe a policeman of some sort, and it's out in the community that we're trying to change the culture, not so they, I want them to also kind of hear the background a little bit. Yeah.
Councillor Price.
On your video, it showed a lot of smoke coming off. I'm just wondering, have you worked out what distance you'd need to be away from residential housing, etc.? Because it won't be just the type of horticulture you're talking about that will be concerned.
Yeah, so I don't know the ins and outs of all of that, but basically Hastings Council have said if someone puts their hand up for the use of their land to lease, that's when they'll send someone out for the process of the consent and things like that. So I wouldn't know all of that personally, but that would end up being followed up at the after we can try and get some land, I suppose. Yeah, yeah. But that will all be taken into factor. We have to get consent and all of that anyway, yeah, before anything would happen. Yeah.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Just a question on, you talk about your 20 by 20 metre pad and some additional space for parking. How many people or how many additional cars, apart from those that are on the skid pad, do you envisage that you would attract to?
Yeah, because you'd end up attracting a little bit of public and stuff like that. But not so much a car park, just like, you know how the speedways run? You just kind of go in and they've got the paddocks and they kind of just park it all through the paddock. Like, we don't need any concreting or anything done. As long as there's an area to get some cars in a paddock or something, then we'd be pretty happy. Like, we'd make do with anything we can make do with, yeah.
Yes, again, through you, Madam Chair, do you have any idea of how many people you'd be attracting to the event?
Like, I think at the start it'll probably be pretty mediocre, but I think that after a few events, if you're running it the right way with some events and stuff, you will start attracting a few more people. But we're trying not to attract all the professional drivers. We're wanting grassroots to basically fix the problem. Yeah, so we're trying to target those grassroots, not really the big professionals. So I don't think it'll be too many, because spectators probably won't be too keen on watching novice drivers, I suppose. Yeah.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Bradley, you've mentioned a couple of times sort of people getting the perception of just seeing your face, pushing this cause. So how big is your community? How many people would you...
Oh, there's so many car crews in Hawke's Bay, like, I couldn't even name them all. There's probably thousands and thousands of people with cars. Like, the car meets each year are just growing by numbers, yeah. Like, I have about 5 people join my Facebook group a day, and 2 of them would be from Hawke's Bay. A day. Yeah.
Api. Councillor Tapani.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. Are there any relevant examples you can supply to Council where other areas may have established this service for their communities?
Yep, there was done one in Masterton. I think the name it's a really weird name, like Raganats or something like that. But they did achieve this in Masterton with an area.
Is it still operating?
Yes, yep, it's still operating. And they're just they're running it the same as how I want to, more as a grassroots system. But I have found a couple of pro cars have gone there. So yeah, I'm trying to stick to a grassroots sort of system, because I think that will actually fix the problem of the burnouts publicly.
Thank you for that, Bradley. Now, there is the old track that they did have at Miani was a group of private individuals that had actually fundraised and got that there, and then unfortunately, as you said, were closed down by Speedway due to the complaints. Have you connected in with them at all? I know they are pro. They're not grassroots. So
lack of traction, and they don't want anything to do with it.
They don't. Yeah, I think they were pretty burnt by their experience.
Yeah, I think after they did everything they did, and then it got used once, they just aren't keen to help out. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Right, well, I mean, it certainly we'll put our thinking caps on in terms of any other organisations that may be good to align with, and I'm sure that Councillor McGrath is very keen to assist you in any way he can. So we've got your contact details, and we'll work alongside you and assist in any way we can.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank
Shall
you,
I
Bradley.
take this out somewhere because of COVID rules, or
Yeah, take it.
take it with me? Yeah.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Keep it as a souvenir.
The glasses are full.
I won't.
Thanks, Bradley.
Okay, so just moving on to announcements by myself. I did just want to take a brief moment to acknowledge that it has been an incredibly busy and at times challenging year as we draw to the end of it, and just say thank you to staff, elected members and our community who we have called on a number of times this year through various consultation processes. So thank you everybody for participating and helping us with the decision making for our city, and just to wish everybody all the very best for the festive season. So I think everybody's looking forward to winding down now and having some time out. And moving on to announcements by management. First up, we have a video presentation from Natasha Mackey. Welcome.
Kia ora everyone, through the chair. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to update you on the recent ThinkFest event that was held in November, on the 20th of November, International Children's Day, which was an event to kick off our development of the child and youth wellbeing strategy for Ahuriri. And just to acknowledge the participation of Napier Pilot City Trust, who we worked with to help get this event off the ground and who will continue to work with in the development of the strategy going forward. ThinkFest was also hosted by our very own Councillor Crown, who is an excellent MC, and also Councillor McGrath, who was an ambassador for the strategy on the day and going forward. We also had a panel that joined us and kicked us off for the day, and we were delighted to have Dr. Elizabeth Kerekere, who's the Green Party MP, and Dr. Katie Bruce from the Office of the Children's Commission, and our very own Zara from Youth Council, Isabella, who I think many of you know, who presented at the LTP, a very passionate 12-year-old, and Levi Armstrong, who's been doing some excellent work in Maraenui around both rangatahi and whānau wellbeing. We posed a couple of questions on the day, which we took from the National Strategy Development process, which was what makes a good life, and also what's important for a good life in Ahuriri. And that really set the scene for the whole day. I have some top-line results from that, and you will see some of those coming through quite strongly in the video that we've put together as a snapshot of the morning. So, unsurprisingly, particularly tamariki and rangatahi who attended, felt that feeling safe, loved, respected, connected, included, and to belong was their vision for a good life. And for Ahuriri, some of the ideas that came through were secure kai, a safe and affordable kāinga, i.e. whare home, clean environment, free places and activities for fun and learning, and leadership opportunities, which are all things that I think we can include in that strategy. Before I show you the video, this is just the beginning. And early next year, we'll be developing a plan to engage further with a range of age groups, but also targeting different stages. So children and young people go through different stages, and sometimes it's more appropriate to work with them in the stage that they're at rather than their age group. So we want to go out to settings where tamariki and rangatahi already are, and also engage with their support crew, so their whānau, their youth providers and other people that support them so that they can thrive. We also are putting together a strategy development team which will feature very strongly tamariki and rangatahi, and so that we can develop a meaningful strategy with them. So without further ado, get your popcorn out, 2 minutes, and we should cracking.
What makes a good life? Being supported, being loved, and being happy.
A good life in Napier is for a nice and clean environment to make people more comfortable to live in Napier.
I think what makes a good life is having supportive family, having a roof over your head, because if you have supportive family, everybody gets their goals. They just
What makes a good life in Napier is having fun activities and events to do. This is particularly for the youth because it makes their experience in Napier more enjoyable.
So our dream life in Napier starts with every child waking up in a safe nest with no worries.
We want agencies, organisations and schools to not give up on a tahi. Don't just tick boxes, keep following through. Like if somebody's on a program and they've attended, don't just tap out, like carry on that mahi.
If I had one dream for Napier, it would be that houses could be more affordable.
Please make more gyms and make people more fit. To plant more plants.
My dream for Napier is for Napier to be a safe place where people can express themselves however they want to and enjoy what our great city has to offer.
So my dream for Napier is a really vibrant, beautiful city where everybody feels safe and everybody feels that there's things that they can go out and do and have fun and engage in.
I wish that there'd be better resources and materials at schools to help kids or children who can't cope sitting in classes to still learn.
Making sure that children watch appropriate content for their age. To make it easier for kids to talk about abuse.
I made this dream because we need clean water.
Everyone coming together to make that change, just trying to get people on the right track, give them the chance that they never had.
For everyone in Napier's alphabet, baby unicorn. That can fly.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you, Natasha. And we do have some further announcements by management.
This work? Yeah. Through the Mayor, just to give you a quick update on the Infrastructure Acceleration Fund. You'll recall that we had the registration of interest process and we were successful with the Maraenui application. So we've just been working towards a second round deadline of that, which is pretty much putting the feasibility and modelling behind our registration of interest to get it into a robust state. And the team have been working extremely hard to get to the point where we were able to submit a pretty good quality submission on Friday. And so the next step will be, I guess, waiting to see what happens with that, and March will be when we hear from the MFE or whoever is assessing that and engaging with us from there on in.
Thank you, Richard.
Through you, Madam Mayor, tēnā koutou katoa. So as the Mayor has already mentioned, the holiday season is almost upon us. So just letting everyone know that council facilities will be closed from the 24th of December at noon, and we will reopen again on the 5th of January. So fully contactable 24/7 during this time, and if you go to napier.gov.nz, contact us, you'll see how you can get hold of us during the break. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I did neglect to ask if there were any minor matters. No. Very good. And we have no confirmation of minutes, so we'll head into our agenda items. We are still awaiting our audit opinion from Audit NZ, so we'll head to the second agenda item, which is the budgets to be carried forward to 2021-22, and I would invite Caroline Thompson to the front to talk to the paper, please. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Through the Mayor. This report is seeking approval to carry forward a total of 46 million of unspent capital and operating expenditure from 2021 into 21-22 or future years depending on the program timing, and also to carry forward 10.5 million relating to the Three Waters reform program that is funded by the DIA into 21-22. Many of the carry forward requests relate to projects that are already underway at year end, and budget is required to be carried forward to complete these projects in 22-23 or future years. The detail for the carry forward requests is contained in the attachments to this report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Caroline. Just with regards to the Three Waters reform program, I note that we are required to actually have spent this money by June 2022. Are the projects on track to be completed by that date?
So that is correct. It is supposed to be spent by the 30th of June, and all of the funding is tagged to projects that are underway, apart from, I think, 980,000, which is yet to be tagged.
So that 918, if that's not tagged to any projects, then that will be returned?
Yes, that's part of the conditions of receiving the funding. Any unspent funds would be returned.
And I appreciate too, you might not be the right person to answer these questions, but is there some work being done around potential projects to utilise that funding?
Yes, so we've got a dedicated finance person that's monitoring and tracking the funding against the projects that are underway, and they're working with the Three Waters Reform Program team.
Thank you. Just open up for any other questions from councillors? No? Okay. So I will therefore ask for a mover Councillor Tapani. Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Tapani.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
With regards to the approaching deadline, are there going to be any extra forms of visibility for council with regards to meeting those deadlines? How will the team keep us informed that we're on track?
Through the Mayor, we can report back on that at the next quarterly report as a separate item as part of the quarterly report.
Through you, Madam Mayor, also through Sustainable Napier, and you would have received a memo maybe a few weeks ago now that was just updating where we're at with Three Waters. So we'll continue to report through the committees as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just like to comment as well on the report and all the detail that's been included in terms of what projects are actually being carried forward. It was good to have that good visibility of what it is and an explanation as to why they are being carried forward. So I thank everyone involved in pulling that together. It was really helpful. Okay, and if there's no further questions, so the recommendation before us is to approve these carry forwards, both capital and the operational carry forwards as well. And if I could have a mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Price. Councillor Taylor, did you wish to speak to that?
No, I think just what you'd said, that I think the report in itself is very good in explaining from where those capital amounts are and the reasons they've been brought forward. So, no, a good report and easy to understand. Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Yes, I agree, and I've had a thumbs up on the Three Waters reform that it will be achieved. And just for Councillor Tapani, we do report back at our meeting, a sustainable meeting, as to progress of projects.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? So I'll therefore put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Agenda item 3, the Napier City Council Bylaws Review, and I would invite Rachel Horton to come and speak to the paper, please. Welcome, Rachel.
Kia ora koutou. So this report relates to the remaking of 10 council bylaws. We've now completed our public consultation on council's proposal to renew the 10 bylaws, which revoked on the 17th of December. And the public submissions, opened on the 22nd of November and closed on the 10th of December. And during this period, 14 submissions were received from members of the public and from public and private organisations with an interest in the proposed bylaws. So we've considered the submissions received, and and propose to make minor amendments to two of the bylaws, the Animal Control Bylaw and the Parks and Reserves Bylaw. We also recommend bringing forward next reviews of two other bylaws, which is the Cemeteries Bylaw and the Fire Control Bylaw. And the remaining 6 bylaws we recommend adopting without changes. And table 1 on page 6 of the agenda report, so it gives you quite a good summary of what we're proposing in terms of all the bylaws. So there's a lot of content in this report, I understand, about the bylaw making process. So I'm really happy to take that as read and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Rachel. Are there any questions from councillors? Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Rachel, for the report. Just wondering if you'd like to make any comment. I note we received a couple of submissions on the trading and public bylaws, trading and public places bylaw, and I think there were a number of points, I suppose, made in there, and we're not recommending any change. So just maybe thinking through your recommendation on that one.
Yeah, so the trading and public places bylaw is there to control, I guess, the commercial activities of particularly mobile shops and mobile traders, and to ensure that our bricks and mortar retailers are have commercial value in the places that they're at. We think it's working well. There has been some changes to events just more recently to allow more mobile food businesses, I guess, to cater for events, but otherwise we feel that it works right. And I note that in some of the submissions, one submission related to ice cream trucks, yes. And we wouldn't be able to perhaps identify just one particular type of mobile shop if we considered opening up our public or our prohibited spaces to more commercial retailers. Then we'd have to think about more broadly food places and not just ice cream trucks. So it would be quite a policy shift for council, I think, at this point.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you for making that that definition around mobile trucks and not one particular type of vendor, I suppose, being targeted in the bylaw. The other point that I thought in that submission would be worthy of some discussion is the request for the fixed period of time at which an operator could stop at a place. Any thoughts on? I know we currently have 2, and there was a request for 5 in the submission. Any thoughts on that? Have we received any other feedback during the life of the bylaw around that 2 hours?
No, we haven't. In that submission, they're talking about that there is a lot more ice cream trucks. So the longer you extend that period, the less chance, I guess, those providers have to get into a spot and fairly trade. Mm-hmm. So 5 hours, could take, for example, the whole of the sports period at Park Island for one shop. So the 2 hours tries to create a fair platform. Not everyone will feel it's fair, perhaps, but it certainly tries to create that fair platform for everyone to take those positions. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Rachel.
Rachel, I note that in the animal control bylaw, there were submissions with regards to the regulating cat ownership more, and just if you could, provide a little bit more detail around why we've decided at this stage that's not something that we'd be looking to bring into the bylaw.
Look, I think it's something that is worth consideration in the future. I mean, if you can imagine how we regulate dogs and the sort of scale of regulation and policy setting we have around that, it would be something like that, or even maybe scaled down for cats. So it's quite, again, a really big policy setting change for council, and something that we would need to do some really strong consultation on and targeted consultation on, and we haven't met that for this. So I would say that that's a good one for us to put a pin in and have a look at next time we do this bylaw review. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
I don't know if you can answer this, but are there any other councils have cat bylaws? Is it
Well, it's
new
only
or-
through the submission I became aware of Wellington, who has a sort of a desexing microchipping program. And I think Wellington has gone in that direction, given the amount of trapping work and work they're doing in and around Zealandia and things like that to create that overflow of birds into the suburbs and things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that to move or to ask a question, Councillor
I was just
Taylor?
going to ask a question in relation to the animal control and the amendment for poultry houses. Does that include healthy homes as well?
It's a pretty palatial poultry house, I must say. They're very lucky chickens.
Okay, so I've just, Deputy Mayor Brosnan is happy to move that we approve these proposed bylaws and the recommended changes. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Would you like to speak to that, Deputy Mayor?
Just briefly to say a thank you to all the submitters who took their time to submit, and obviously we have had a couple of changes, minor amendments to the bylaw as a result. I'm personally a big fan of the potential to look at the regulation of cats, and I've spoken to our regulation team about that, so I think that's good that that's been raised through submissions and we have a commitment to look at that when we do review the bylaw. Also, in particular, that trading in public places bylaw, I'd just make the comment because this is a submitter who I understand has raised the issue a number of times, and that is that council has a really difficult balance to set between commercial activities and providing a fair platform. So it was really good to hear from our staff around their consideration of that submission in particular. And I'm happy to move the recommendations. I think considering the amount of time our staff have had to pull these together, I'd like to congratulate you and your team, Rachel, because it has not been a small feat, and it really has covered that issue that we found. So well done.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, nothing further to add. Any further comments or no? So I'll put the motion. All those, and if I could just ask that our councillors who are online could pop your cameras on so that we can see a thumbs up or something when we're voting, that'd be much appreciated. So all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
What's up here?
Up is doing his outdoor council meeting attending again. We're all very envious, Councillor Tapani.
That's all right.
Right, so we'll move on to agenda item 4, Memorandum of Transition for Coastal Hazards Service Delivery, and we have Caroline back again.
Thank you. Simon Bendel, who is our subject matter expert and the project manager for the Coastal Hazards Tag Team, is actually on annual leave. So if we do have any sort of technical questions along the way on this, then I might have to either leave the report on the table or come back to you with the response. So the purpose of the Memorandum of Transition is to provide a mechanism for Napier City Council, Hastings District Council and the Regional Council to confirm the agreed arrangements for implementing the Coastal Hazard Strategy and the associated transfer of assets that was recommended by the funding review. This document will enable the Regional Council to amend its long-term plan without objection from the TAs under Section 16 of the Local Government Act, and the MOT, or Memorandum of Transition, development process and timeline is set out in Table 1 of the report. The MOT proposes that the Regional Council will take charge of adapting the coastal hazard risks and implement the Coastal Hazard Strategy. Hastings District Council and Napier City Council will transfer their relevant assets to the Regional Council from the 1st of July 2024 to align with the adoption of the Regional Council's 24 to 34 long-term plan. To date, Hastings District Council has received and endorsed the Memorandum of Transition, and the Regional Council will consider it at their meeting in early February. And I'm happy to take the questions.
Thanks, Caroline. And I would just open up for the members on that joint committee if you would like to provide any additional commentary on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll pass over to Councillor Price after this. But yeah, just to, I suppose, set the scene for Council, that you'll recall earlier in the year we received the report from QC Raynor Asher on recommendations on how the partner councils could deal with funding going forward in the implementation of the Coastal Hazards Strategy. Through that, which report was extremely helpful for the joint committee in coming up with this recommendation that you see before you of the transition. Essentially, it was felt that one agency needed to take responsibility for the funding of the implementation of the strategy into the future, and that with collecting the funding goes the responsibility of accountability for its spending. So we've ended up in this position where the recommendation from Raynor Asher was for that to be the regional council, and some of his primary reasons for that recommendation was that there are a number of activities you can perform on the coast that have effects over TA boundaries, and the need to receive some level of consistency when you are determining the public benefit of those coastal works across the whole region. So those are the two that stand out for me as part of his key reasons for the recommendation. In terms of the transitional Memorandum of Understanding itself, our staff have worked, I suppose, on the detail through the TAG group outside of the governance area, but there have been a number of touch points with us from a Napier City Council representative perspective. They haven't raised any concerns with us, and I think it's fair to say, compared with the assets that Hastings is looking to transfer, ours are limited in number, so we have a couple there, and yeah, it was really threshed out, I think, in a good workshop with the governors of HBRC as well, around how they would continue to implement the decisions that this council had already made and funded for in that transition. So happy if there's any questions from elected members, but those are highlights from me.
Thank you very much.
I think Deputy Mayor Brosnan has covered it pretty well. I mean, the report by Asher Raynor is well worth reading. It's he researched it pretty well to cover the issue, and I feel it was the funding that was a major issue, and we needed to all get on board. And then I think that coastal hazard is core business for the regional council, so it's good for us, I think. And asset-wise, we're not being wounded too much, so it's very good. Thank you.
And just Councillor Price's maybe just raised another point that I think is worth highlighting, and that is that coastal engineering and expertise is actually really hard to come across in our country at the moment. It's a limited resource, and that there were efficiencies, I think, in seeing those consolidated into the regional council, who of course already employ coastal expertise in their science department. So there was some, I think, efficiency for ratepayers to be seen in that model as well.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Price. I'll open up for questions. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I've been party to this process. It's a pragmatic approach, I think, is the most important thing, and it's about enabling actions to be taken. There's been a bit of a struggle and progress around the coastal hazards, and so I think the report from the QC and the pragmatism of the Regional Council, hopefully to take this on board, will mean that we will actually see progress, but it doesn't mean that we've lost input, because we retain seats in what they now call the advisory group to the Regional Council around this matter. So it's pragmatic about getting things done, but it's also about having some political say around priorities and process.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's not very often that I feel like the words are taken out of my mouth by Councillor Simpson, so thank you. My question was actually around the advisory committee, and I noted that whilst we still have a voice on there, they've also put tangata whenua. I was wondering if the advisory committee is going to be made up just of the groups that are currently represented, or whether there will be new members and new groups brought into that, if anyone could answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, Councillor Crane, could we receive some confirmation possibly from staff? I know there has been some discussion on the appointment process of those tangata whenua representatives, which would be made from the from the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and I'm just trying to recall how that appointment process is cemented, and if that's actually reached a resolution yet, Carolyn.
I'm just looking at page 9 of the...
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and to help Carolyn, there's a bit more detail on page 13, which is the schedule to the memorandum. And it talks about, it doesn't directly answer Councillor Crown's question, but it talks about each tangata whenua appointer may appoint up to 2 members to the advisory committee. And each tangata whenua appointer must make any appointment and notify all tangata whenua appointers and partner councils of this in writing. A little bit more detail that we might need to take offline. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Chief Executive and through you, Your Worship, I believe it's Mangahararu Tangatu Trust, Mana Ahuriri and Hiratonga Tamati Settlement Trust are currently proposed to be those tangata whenua appointers.
That's correct, as per that attachment. Schedule, apologies.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Crown?
Yeah, I think it does, yeah.
Any further questions? Could I have a mover for the officer's recommendation, please? Thank you, Deputy Brosnan, seconded by Councillor Price. Would you like to speak to that?
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Councillor Price?
No, we've done our bit.
Any further comments from other councillors? No one on the screen? No, so I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So we are still awaiting our audit opinion. That means I will be adjourning our meeting. I can't give you a return time at this point. Apologies for that. So as soon as we have further information from the auditors, we will be adjourning to adopt the last agenda item for today's meeting. So thank you, everybody, and we will let the community know as soon as we know when we'll be back.